Okay, welcome everyone to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, July 15th. We have a smaller board today. Jeffrey Woodruff and I, Kelly McNicholas Curry, here in person. Greg Postman is joining us online. Francie Jacober is representing the board at the Colorado River District quarterly Board of Directors meetings. And Patty Clapper has traveled to Pennsylvania for the National Association of Counties Summer Conference. So we have a little bit of a shorter agenda since we have a smaller board. Today we're going to start by discussing potential CCI legislative priorities with our management analyst, Levi Borst. Hi, Levi.
Hi, good afternoon. Levi Borst, the management analyst in the manager's office. And as you mentioned, here to talk about hopefully just an open-ended with some direction at the end, CCI legislative priority setting. I've only got 30 minutes, and of course, the range of items that we could make priorities are far-reaching, so I'll try to just blitz through a little context, some survey results from CCAT, ballot measures we might expect, some of our past submissions, some proposed ideas that I've heard from various members of the board, and some expected and returning legislation, leaving some time for open discussion about what you all would like to push forward to CCI for our legislative priorities this coming session. The general schedule of CCI's legislative priority session, I'm sure you've seen the emails that they bombard us with, but just so they're all in one place. The legislative brainstorming part of this is where we are right now, where we just come up with ideas and submit a proposal, which is due this Friday, the 18th. A brief side note, this year it's through a Google form. So it's pretty simple in terms of submitting the ideas. I don't think they need to be fully baked or completely fleshed out, but we do need to have the commissioner contact, staff responsible, general ideas, and if the idea has been approved by our board. And so that's this Friday, which if we decide on a priority today, I'll get that submitted ahead of Friday's deadline. The legislative issues discussion is a week from Friday. And I'm sure you all have been to these in the past. Maybe not Jeffrey hasn't been to one yet, but we essentially just have all day to go through the different priorities as they've been submitted by the different counties. And then there's sort of an open-ended comments, questions, follow-up that come from other counties other than the submitting county. So I did that last year and took the better part of a day, but you get a good chance to hear everybody's proposals and obviously weed out any duplicates or get any ideas about where we might want to put our advocacy in the coming session. The CCI Mountain District meeting is August 21st, and that's where these things will get further refined and developing some actual priorities of where we want CCI staff engaged in developing and drafting legislation as of the steering committee meeting September 19th, where they'll start engaging potential sponsors, organizing stakeholders, and moving forward with CCI priorities. So we recently filled out a CCAT member survey, counties and commissioners acting together. And this is just to give you an idea of where the membership placed some priorities in terms of where county diversification concepts in specific might be used to benefit our county. So as you'll see in the next slide, revenue diversification is something that's pretty important. So these are some more narrow revenue diversification concepts that were thrown out to the CCAT membership. Excise tax, services tax, vacant property tax, real estate transfer taxes and fees, short-term rental reclassification, and sales tax in unincorporated. I'm afraid this is going to be too small to see. So I wrote them down. I can read from left to right just so you can kind of see the bar chart. Sorry about that. Starting on the left, revenue diversification, then legislator education and relationship building, budget advocacy, large county commissioner elections, automated solar permitting, vulnerable road user or crash prevention enterprises, reinsurance, fairness and transparency in municipal court, and the parentheses say if vetoed, and that did not pass last session. Homeowners insurance enterprises. Tabor reform will be the one with the tall green bar, kind of fourth from right. HUTF reclassification, proactive housing legislation, and Medicaid funding. So I'm sorry those are so small, but it gives you kind of an idea of where the membership put some priorities in terms of bills that we could see coming forward in the next session. So ballot measures, I'm not sure if you all have looked at what's been proposed so far, and a lot of things are in different stages of the process, so they've obviously got a lot of hurdles to clear before they actually make the final ballot. But a few of the high points that I just plucked out, because I think there are some priorities that we may also be looking at in terms of our county priorities. Ending wolf reintroduction would be a ballot measure, of course would have to go through a ballot measure. Voter approval of statewide fees and voter approval of new enterprises. This comes from the Colorado Concern folks, branded under a different name this session, but obviously that would have some impacts in terms of legislation we might propose, because anything that's enterprise-based or fee-based, if it suddenly needed statewide voter approval, that would definitely be a new hiccup in that process. Prohibit state bans on energy source, and this is something like a local government couldn't say natural gas is banned as an energy source in residential units. Income tax changes. From my quick read, not being a tax person, I would drop the income tax from 4.41 to 4.39%. So it's from the same folks who are looking to kind of limit revenue into the state. Don't quote me on that, please. I don't really
I
understand
thought we
the
already
verbiage.
lowered it to 4, but anyway, I'll defer to you.
One on mandatory law enforcement reporting to federal authorities, and way too many others to list. There's probably, last I looked, almost 100 in various points along the process. I put a link to the initiative process and the details on that in the event that you all want to click on it sometime later.
Thank you.
Some expected and returning legislation. Crash prevention enterprise was the vulnerable road user bill. We expect to see that again. Contested property values process. This was Eagle County's reform that they were looking for last year. Somehow that made a CCI priority list, but we didn't see any legislation drafted or introduced about that, so we can expect to see that again. Clear Creek is talking about an excise tax, including tourist districts, to the property tax expansion. It went from 2% to 6% in the last session, and I think they're looking to include the tourist districts in that increase instead of just the counties.
Is that, do you mean lodging tax expansion?
I did mean lodging tax expansion. I gotta get off this slide really quick now. Sorry, yes, lodging tax from 2 to 6. Solar permitting. We had the automated solar permitting bill. We can expect to see some version of that, and then also data centers. Not that we would ever introduce the solar permitting bill or make data centers a priority, just to give you an idea of what we might see. Our previous CCI submissions for legislative issues. Last year we had 2, the real estate transfer tax and sustainable aviation fuel tax incentive. And I think last year we chose to submit it as a tax because of the odd year for a Tabor initiative. And then in 2024, it was before my time in this role, but I know we submitted some version, whether it was the real estate transfer tax or fee, to CCI also, and that's all I know of from 2024. And as Kelly probably remembers, we were part of the 2024 real estate transfer fee working group across a few different counties and municipalities, just to kind of explore that concept some more. So here are just 3 proposals that I heard from members of this board in the past, leading into this discussion. So I know Patty was really interested in the real estate transfer tax or fee concept again. I think this year it would be legislative authority as opposed to asking the legislature to refer a measure just based on the timing of the even odd years. And this would be a nexus-based fee where we would have to show some impacts of the constant transfer of real estate and be able to articulate the use of that fee through that. I think that narrows the scope somewhat as compared to what you can do a tax for, just because you can kind of ask whatever you want your tax to be in the language. And so that's one option that I know at least Patty had voiced some support for. This was a new one for me, the state library legislation. Currently, our state library receives $3.2 million as a fund from the federal government, or as a grant from the federal government. And this would move that subsidy or grant from the feds to the state of Colorado. And I'll pause there. Jeffrey, this came from you, so I know you've got a lot more information than I do on it.
Really, this request came out of a conversation with Amy Shipley, Town of Basalt, and basically it's like the library's library, if you will. So it's a resource they're concerned about relative to the overall federal budget picture. So is it something we want to pick up at the state level? And it seemed like one that we should at least explore in this 18th submission and see if there's other counties that would get on board.
So it would take $3.2 million from the state budget.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a good time to talk about preliminary budget woes that the state might look at. The governor's office forecasted another $1 billion shortage if the budget bill passed, and we all know that it did. So I don't know that I have any more specific numbers other than the picture from last year is not improved. It's arguably just as bad.
Yeah.
Special session?
I've not heard an announcement, but everybody's pointing toward it. I could have missed it. Have you all heard that there's been something announced? Hard to imagine we won't have one given that, but we'll see. And then a third suggestion was some sort of pause or modification on the wolf reintroduction program. Delay future introductions, compensation for depredation impacts, and direct CPW to get permission to release future wildlife on federal lands. This again came from Jeffrey, so if there's more background or discussion to be had there, I'd love to hear it.
So I'll just add to what's on the slide and what's sort of widely circulating is that the Blue Book estimated cost of the wolf reintroduction, gray wolf reintroduction, was $800,000. Currently, the state of Colorado is at $3 million. So there's concern from the ranchers, both in terms of ongoing support, namely range riders, and the protection of cattle as they move up to allotments. But how does this look in year 2 or year 3, given sort of the dire budget circumstances? So the pause is really relative to the overall funding and potential funding gap in 26. And then the third bullet point of directing CPW to get permission to release on federal lands is, you'll remember that the only releases right now are on either state or state or private. And so given we're 84% federal and state lands, this would give them a wider net to cast, if you will, in terms of future releases of wolves in the state of Colorado.
I'm going to suggest we get through the totality, and then we can sort of start to see where folks' energy lies. If you have more slides.
I don't have more slides of proposals. These were kind of the 3 ideas that I've heard floated from the board. And of course, this is not limiting in any way. These were just 3 ideas that I'd heard come to me. So we can do anything from further sustainable aviation fuel efforts or revisit our prior efforts. And of course, there's nothing that says we have to submit any legislative priorities at all.
Okay. Greg, you have any additional that you want to throw out there?
Not presently, but thank you. I look forward to the conversation.
Okay. Well, I mean, the only clear direction I think that our full board would have would be to continue along the RET path, just given the historic support for just perpetuating the education along these lines.
Put the slide back up. nice cartoon, but let's go back to the list. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess, just reacting to these three. The library legislation one, I'm fine with the idea of it. It's hard to make specific advocacy along the lines of the state budget without having a fuller conversation. My inclination would be towards what we saw with the CCAP priority for Medicaid funding and trying to, deal with that gap as a higher priority than this gap. Not that I don't love libraries. The wolf reintroduction, I'm not sure the county is the best poised group to carry that forward. It seems like has far broader stakeholding that needs to happen, and that there are other organizations that would be better poised for that request. Which isn't to say it ultimately wouldn't come to this board to take a position on, but those are my reactions to the three of these. The sustainable aviation fuel, we didn't really do anything about it last year. We didn't generate any stakeholding or any meetings with legislators, so it's, I don't have any opinion about the viability of it, but because of that, I think we can commit to doing that. If we want to make it a priority, we should have some sort of campaign plan along with it. There is also the, nature of tax credits that the state doesn't love right now, so without a funding source. So I don't know if we've thought creatively along those lines of what might fund the credit for SAF. I personally, am inclined to some of the stuff that the CCAT group emphasized, just relative to more foundational budgetary issues and tax generation. I will say, I think the Tabor reform just should be a huge coalition statewide, personally. I don't think the county is necessarily the one to put that forward without having a full campaign behind it. But I would love to see that happen. I think maybe one thing that I might propose for the county is to do a study on what a transition from sales tax to service tax would look like, and ask the legislature to run that study, because I think we should just be looking into the future for taxes on services being a more progressive way to generate revenue than sales tax, and capturing more opportunity for revenue in the community would be one of my inclinations as something new to consider. Other dialogue?
I think the only things I would throw out again with the RET or the RET fee is that, of course, the governor's promised to veto that should it make his desk, and this is his last opportunity to do that. And so I think even if we just keep this ball rolling, next year could be a very different conversation in terms of governor support. And so I think to keep it fresh on the minds of our legislators makes it a bit of a more feasible long game, even if we don't get it through this year.
I want it to be a campaign topic for the next governor's race.
I think there are a lot of
Have
folks.
candidates go on the record where they're at on it.
Agreed. And I think the bar for the fee, if we can go through the legislature as opposed to the voters, is probably a little easier, just because from what I remember, we need 2/3 of both houses to refer the Tabor measure, and then 55% of voters would also have to approve that at the ballot box. I think that's probably, there are just more steps to that maybe, and the legislative side might be a little cleaner that way. assuming, of course, that the Attorney General determines that it's allowable, so that's another step on this side anyway. It's kind of a mess, but.
Other thoughts? Is there anything that's come forward from any staff departments that?
I think from other staff departments, which is aligned, Kelly, with what you've said, and I think the board too, is really in line with the CCAT aspects of where is the state budget, what are the Medicaid elements of it, and I think staff will be coming with more information over the next couple months, but I would say that is really the lens that staff is coming, and so, is there an opportunity, whether it's getting behind CCAT's proposals or something of the board, to be putting in a submission there along just funding cuts in general, and what is the state being absorbing versus what is then going to be, somewhat of unfunded mandates down to some of our social service programs.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good to me. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Kara and Levi. I'd like for us to keep SAF on the table and pounding the table about it. It's doesn't look like much is going to happen along those lines for a while yet, but I want to keep it in there.
Okay.
So can I maybe clarify what I'm hearing? That'd be helpful. So it sounds like there's agreement. We're going to keep the REF as a top priority, which I agree. I think Pitkin County has been a strong voice and has gotten momentum that CCI has even taken this on, right? So to continue that, sounds like keeping the SAF proposal at the moving forward as a potential or as a priority. And then I guess I'm unclear of, are you all just getting behind the CCAT policy statements, or are you all wanting to put one in that is specific around maybe Medicaid or federal social services funding? And I don't know what the legislative request is, though. I don't have clarity on that at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Greg?
Yeah, without the clarity, I'd say we could get behind CCAT for now, and we do have a little time for this to evolve, right?
I don't know, is there any interest in my proposal for the legislature to study taxes on services rather than as sort of a replacement for sales tax?
A study, to propose a study of it seems fine enough to me. Why not?
Okay. Great. You okay with that? I'll try and flesh that out a little more fully. I will note that it was not one of the more highly ranked CCAT priorities, so it would maybe be in it. It would better position us to bring it forward as a county instead of relying on CCAT to do that. All right, I will get some language for that for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and this will not be our first crack at this, right? We have the opportunity to withdraw things. We may have the opportunity to add things later. I just want to acknowledge we don't have two other commissioners here who did not flag any passion projects for me ahead of this meeting. But
I think we can probably withdraw at any time, but I don't know that we can add forever into the future.
yeah, sure.
Usually, I've only submitted 2 in the past, but I don't know if we're limited, so I'm happy to find that out and then submit 3.
I don't think we are limited in the number. Doesn't always help our odds, but so.
Perfect. I can handle the first 2 easily enough, and then I'll just look for a little language from you on the 3rd, and
Thank
we'll
you.
get them done by Friday.
Thanks, Levi.
Thank you.
All right, great. Here we go again. I will note, I am like a super hard no on any reduction in income tax in Colorado. Like, that is so regressive, and we already have, like, budget challenges that we shouldn't have in this state.
Agreed.
Okay.
We've already negotiated with that terrorist organization.
Yeah, thanks. All right, let's move on. Nice to see some guests here in the room. And Sam, come on up. We are going to talk about our Regional Grantors Collaborative recommendation regarding an off-cycle funding request for community health services. Let's see. Can we kick Levi's screen off? Zoom. Maybe stop sharing, or I don't know. Thanks. All right.
Great. All right. Hey, everyone. Sam Lancaster.
Red light on.
Perfect. There we go. All right. Hey, everyone. Sam Lander-Casper, Deputy Director of Human Services here. We also have with us Valerie Carlin with the Aspen Community Foundation and Ariel Lyons with the City of Aspen. And yes, we're here to talk about basically a little bit of background about the Regional Grantors Group, and then get into a request for funding that we received through this off-cycle funding request process that we've worked out with our group from Community Health Services. So I just have a little bit of background information on the Grantors Group. I know we've talked about it a few times in the past, but we did just want to set that stage since we are starting to get interest in these off-cycle requests and want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So, and feel free to let me know if I miss anything. But about 2 years ago, we decided we needed to meet as these regional grantors because we were running, grant programs that we're granting to a lot of the same organizations. We were running similar cycles, similar applications, and we just wanted to get together to see if there were any opportunities. Mostly it kicked off to just see if we could combine applications to make it easier for local organizations to apply for grants. And when we got together and started talking about that, started to realize there were a lot of complexities around how our programs operated, both similarly and differently, as well as we didn't really necessarily understand exactly what the landscape of granting looked like. So we said, well, first thing we want to do is pull together our data. And so we did that. We pulled together our data, and we looked at the past 5 years of the data that the group had. And we started to see, well, we need to see where our similarities are. Where are we granting not only to the same organizations, but to the same types of services? So we can start to understand kind of the allocation of grant funding. And obviously, again, that's where it gets a little complicated because of the difference in the grant programs for the different organizations. I should jump back and say in the Regional Grantors Group, we have Aspen Community Foundation, City of Aspen, as well as Aspen One SKICO. So those are the 4 groups that are currently involved. And when we looked at the data, what we saw was we tried to put the organizations receiving funding into different buckets, and we actually came up with 22 different buckets, ranging from youth programs to environmental to. We just wanted to make sure we were really looking at these organizations by the programmatic work they were doing. We found that the top 5 categories as far as dollars received between 2019 and 2023 in order of largest to smallest were youth after school programs, food and housing, which we ended up actually separating that just recently in our relook at the data, youth and schools, which is different from after school programs, and then mental health and environment. And where we went from there was we said, and we're still looking at this, is we said, well, maybe the best way to do this is look at having each organization or each grantor focus on a particular area. And could we put these 22 different programs into buckets, right? And we had looked at potentially doing, youth and schools in one, environment in one, human services, arts. And those conversations were good, but they kind of led us to this idea that we need a way to measure the work that we're doing as a group. And so we kind of steered away from that because we didn't feel like we necessarily had maybe the buy-in we needed. It wasn't quite clear enough how that would exactly work, transferring funds from one grant program to another. And so in looking at bringing in this idea of measuring the work that we're doing, we looked at how do we create metrics around the outcomes, right? Because most of us, our grants are general operating. So these folks aren't having to submit applications saying we're going to do A, B, and C. And that's what we're going to report out on. And we really like, at least from the Healthy Community Fund standpoint, the flexibility of those general operating, because we know, for the nonprofits in our region, to get grant funds that are restrictive and to work around can really complicate things for them. So this gives them the freedom to use these funds how they see fit. But at the same time, we want to see what is the impact we're having so we can start to make informed decisions about how we as a group can better support the nonprofits and the goals of our various boards and councils. And so we are working with a data scientist. He's kicking off a project here soon to start looking at ways to create metrics by which these organizations will still be able to do the work they do without these restrictive barriers, but looking at the subjective data they provide to us and actually quantifying it. So this person works primarily in the pharmaceutical industry in data science there. And so they do, the way he put it to me was, I'm the person who looks at data that sounds like this made my tummy feel better, and I quantify why we should spend $1 billion on it. So that's really what we are looking for, though. It sounds a little funny, but we want to know, when someone says we were able to get, 27 more kids signed up for a reading program. How does that, besides the fact that we know this is a good thing, how do we, demonstrate that with data? The other part of that process that they're going to be working on for us is creating metrics by which we can measure the impact from a regional standpoint. So where are we now and where have we gotten to over time? And so that's something we've been kicking off, but I think what we're really here today to talk about is this regional grantors group the off-cycle grant requests that we're having. We had noticed that different organizations at different times were coming to our various boards and councils looking for funding, and that we just thought that that wasn't a really good gateway to meet with you all, to have these groups express their needs. And so we created a collaborative application that is housed on Aspen Community Foundation's website, which allows organizations in the region who are looking for off-cycle grant requests to be able to submit an application that then we are all reviewing collectively, so that this group can put together a recommendation that is going out to each of these different boards and councils, so that everybody's really hearing the same thing, understanding the full scope of the need that these organizations have, and being able to also know what some of the other funders in the region are considering and potentially looking to fund. We're hoping that this is something that's going to be helpful for these organizations, so they're maybe not having to make as many trips, telling the same story over and over, getting repetitive questions and things like that, while also giving you all the background information, because we think this application really gives them direction on what are we looking for when we're hearing off-cycle requests. Like, what is the need we're trying to meet as a county or as a city or as a foundation, and it gives them the chance to explain that before maybe just walking into an open meeting. Valerie, Ariel, do you all have anything else?
And would you guys like to come up?
Yeah,
We're all collaborative here, right? This is the collaborators' recommendations. So let's collaborate. Thank you. Nice to see you. Hi.
Hello.
There you are. Now you're on.
So this has been a great process. From the foundation standpoint, we're happy to serve as a host for this. We call it an RFI, request for information. Happy to utilize our platform, our data database to do that, and I think it's yielded a lot of information that's been helpful across all 4 of our granting entities, and also helps us have a more strategic conversation about what recommendations we might put in place, again, to all of our governing bodies for funding decisions.
Yeah, similar to what Valerie was saying, City of Aspen is also really excited about this collaborative opportunity to share data and hopefully come at these grant opportunities and requests with like a more holistic, strategic framework instead of trying to piece it together separately.
And let me make sure I understand the scope. So is the scope relative to the 5 buckets that you guys identified? I'm just thinking, we get like, help us pay for voices and, the school down in Glenwood, help us pay for capital project over here, so I just want to be clear on what will come to you all through that and what won't.
You want me to take a stab at it?
Yeah, the kind of criteria we're evaluating them with.
Well, let me back up a little bit. So if we all have our own grant processes and timelines, right? And invariably, we get approached outside of those processes and timelines, especially you guys as elected officials get approached out completely outside of a process. So this was an opportunity or an attempt to kind of regulate, if you will, or let's say standardize those organizations that are approaching various governing bodies even outside of the staff level. So that's kind of the genesis of this idea. It's not content specific, so it's not focused on, you know, health and human services or environment or anything in particular. It's really about the process. Lost my train of thought. What else did you ask?
I just was like types of requests.
Yeah, so far we've gotten 3, and they've been mostly in the health and human. What was the third one we did?
Yep.
Yeah.
All 3.
Sorry, I had to think about what did we get. And there are organizations that are coming to us. So what we've prioritized for this type of an RFI are these organizations suffering from a sudden funding loss, which we know is going to be happening and is happening due to the federal landscape. Conversely, are these programs that have an opportunity to come in with an innovative program or solution that might be filling an identified gap across the region? And then third, capital requests. So those organizations that are ready and need to expand their physical footprint, whether that's, you know, an actual building or a service area, that need those more substantial dollars to be able to do that. So those are 3 priorities we're looking at for this RFI to be utilized for.
Kara, did you have something to
Yeah,
add?
and I may share, I think we're, you know, from Pitkin County and Healthy Community Fund, we're still trying to navigate because as Valerie alluded, you all as elected get a lot of one-offs. But the intention is really right now that this is really staff is there on behalf of, you know, what is within scope of the Healthy Community Fund, which does cover a lot of things as well, right? But there are still potentially others that may come to all of you that may not be a fit within this. And at least as of right now, we're really, Pitkin's role in this is really through the Healthy Community Fund, not all Pitkin County requests.
So historic preservation isn't going to go to this group.
Generally, no.
Got
No.
it.
So we're a human services, community nonprofit, and then cultural treasures, which is a pretty flexible term. But historically, in that group, we've had KDNK, Aspen Public Radio. I think historical societies come in a couple times through there. So that one's a little more, the CGRC tends to decide what a cultural treasure is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Thank you.
And I will say, I think as this group is getting off the ground, you know, staying focused within the Healthy Community Fund, I do think that there is, if we see that as an opportunity, you know, I think that there would be conversations, as Sam said, maybe there are ones of, you know, having the regional grantors group of where those requests are going, but really wanting them to stay focused, you know, from Pitkin's representation there, keeping it within the Healthy Community Fund lens for this time.
Great.
Yeah, and I would add, I think not every request is going to be applicable to every organization that's involved in the group, but I don't think that's negative necessarily. I think having everyone in there looking at the application and providing their insight, because they're all subject matter experts, can help the groups that are potentially interested or involved to just have a wider viewpoint of the issue. So, yeah, it's nice to have those extra eyes on there.
And I would also share from the municipalities that are not involved, I do know in conversations with representatives from Snowmass and Basalt are also appreciating, as some of these requests may be coming, that it's being able to be filtered through the strategic lens of what are the requests and what is that need, and having all of your expertise at the table of what are those gaps to be filled and that we need to meet the community need.
Greg, do you have a question?
I'm conjuring questions. I guess the concern I have, and I'm sure you've all thought about it, is, you know, are the barriers to entry to bringing a request in getting more onerous or complicated or bureaucratic is a question. It sounds like this should make things easier and fairer, but I also wonder if a process like this will filter out the unicorns, the things that come along that nobody anticipates, that may have a time frame, that may be really worthwhile and very popular for some, but maybe not everyone. Do those just get cast aside because they don't meet some sort of entry criteria? And then the things that kind of hit some sort of middle ground or a compromise within the group are the ones that go forward, which honestly, those aren't always the best. So I'm a little concerned, but I don't know if there's a better way to approach this. I really appreciate the mindful way you've come up with this, but I'm also wondering what the unintended consequences are for those unicorns that come along. And I'm hoping there's an ombudsman or someone who can look at things and say, hey, wait a minute, look at this, stop, let's go back, and this might be really important. Just hoping that exists for those people who come in out of the blue. Thanks. I don't know if there's a question in that. I think there was. What are you guys doing?
Collaborator representatives would like to respond to. Is that correct?
I think it's a great point, and I think you're right. There are going to be, with every process, or groups that maybe don't get channeled in as easily as others. I think the good thing about this group is if we get an application, we will be reviewing it and in some way making a recommendation that works its way up. We're really, at least from our role with Healthy Community Fund, in an advisory capacity. We're not making a decision. We're not pulling funds from the Healthy Community Fund. We're bringing it for you all to review and understand. So hopefully we wouldn't lose anyone in the process. But yeah, Greg, your point about whether people are getting funneled in correctly or not, that is a concern. Fortunately, I think as this process gets underway more, people will learn about it, and we can all start, as a need, directing, folks who are going to fit this process to the right location to get worked into the process.
You know what might help, Kelly, if you don't mind?
Please.
What might help is just an appeals process. If there's a quick, rapid appeal, if somebody says, "Hey, wait a minute, you didn't understand," give them a hearing. Maybe just something like that built in, so that it isn't just like the cold shoulder if they don't meet the criteria. Just wanted to. My intuition tells me we should ask for that and have an appeal as part of this. The other question that may not be tied completely to this particular conversation is that, as Valerie alluded, we're gonna see a lot of funding cuts, and my fear and concern is that the go-to group to come to is us, right? To look for the backfill and to fill the gap. And so the first ones who get to us may be the luckiest. And I just see that coming, and I'm wondering how are we anticipating this and curbing the enthusiasm of people who think we're going to solve the financial gap problem for them.
I would just note, Greg, to your appeal process, I want to reiterate what Sam shared, is that all recommendations are still, because as you all for Healthy Community Fund will come to this board, and so you can either choose to support the recommendation or not, whatever it might be. So as far as an appeal, it kind of is sitting at this table.
So let me just
Maybe
clarify.
that's it. Okay.
So we've heard that there's 3 requests that you've all received. We're hearing one today. I believe we have another one flagged for lift up in the future in August, and then we'll hear whatever the third is. Will come back to us. Okay.
Yep, at the same time, and they're similar areas, food
And
security.
that's even if the recommendation is not to fund them. We'll
Right.
still hear from them. Okay.
Right, yeah, it doesn't end with us. We're just
Okay.
screening and passing along the information and kind of bringing that multi-group viewpoint to each of the boards
Does
and
that
councils.
align with your gut check, Greg?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That helps.
Okay. Jeffrey?
Is there an opportunity at this point to, it seems like you build a building, there's a 16-section budget, right? So we're supporting a community, and yet we have 22 buckets. And not saying a building is less or more complex than the community at large, but it seems to me we're still trying to solve so many buckets with a limited amount of I hate using the resource word because, so is there an opportunity at this point in the budget cycle and this point in the funding cycle to be a little more focused, a little more targeted, and then potentially provide larger financial incentives to Greg's point around innovation or around capital needs as opposed to just operations? So I guess it's a question, as a community, as we mature, do we want to focus, all of our efforts on needs, if you will, today, and say, you know what, the wants are great, but that's not where we are as a community. And I mean, I really value what you're doing, which is pre-screening and vetting, so that what's going to be in front of us, we have they have a better chance of success as well, with the financial backing of the county and other municipalities. But I guess I'm just questioning, as we go forward, as we look at the lens, it seems like 22 is, a lot of SIC codes, or however you want to put it, relative to, what's the capital available. So again, probably like Greg, an observation, but is there a chance that not only are you vetting the applications, but we're getting a little more laser sharp focus around where we're allocating those funds? I won't use the R word again.
Yeah, it's and the buckets is as far as we've gotten in the data.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and we recognize it's a huge spread. When we're doing this data project, he's going to be looking at that as well. The buckets were really to help us understand where the funding was going and looking for trends so that we could understand as a group, are there areas where we could streamline who's funding. I'll just use for an example, we had talked about, since Aspen 1 has really environmentally specific funding, would it make sense for us to look at allocating what we've portioned for that to them and run all of those groups through there? Those are just discussions we're having. We're hoping as we look at the data more, that's going to help us drive, we're going to be looking at what the Healthy Community Fund looks like next year when it goes to ballot. So those are conversations I think are going to be coming back to you all once we've done a little bit more work with the data. This was really just our kickoff to start to understand who's getting what, and even looking at who's successful, right? How can we support organizations? Maybe someone in a particular bucket is having less success in getting funding, and why is that? And those were some of the questions we were asking initially.
And to your point about need versus want, Jeffrey, I think the actual genesis of this collaborative, or it's an affinity group, if you will, was really like, do grant applications, are they a proxy for need? And should we be looking at that? How do we look at that across the community, across the region? So it's an ever-evolving conversation and an ever-evolving look at how we can, the four entities, at least to begin with, can start working more collaboratively and more coordinated to start to understand what the true needs are, and then how do we perhaps in the future direct funding to really address those needs, or the wants, if that's what we decide to do. But we're still, I would say, very early in kind of that relationship building and trust building across our four organizations. This shared RFI is one of the first steps of working together on something. But I have high hopes that as we continue to mature as an affinity group, that we'll see more of those, I'll say, resource sharing opportunities for the future.
Yeah, thank you for collaborating. So.
Okay, may I suggest that we pivot towards the request from Community Health Services?
Sounds good. So the recommendation, basically the way we met as a group, we reviewed their application, and as a group we came to a recommendation, and we put it in essentially just this recommendation letter that's been shared with everyone. But just for some background, Community Health Services approached the group with an RFI to cover a gap in funding that they've experienced. It's $90,000 total, which was unexpected because of a reduction in Title X family planning and CDC women's wellness connection grants. So that was cut unexpectedly from their budget this year. And they were requesting the $90,000 to preserve these services during this transition. They expect to find replacement for this funding in the next year, but just to be able to carry throughout the rest of this year, providing those services. And so the group did recommend funding the request. And the way we approached this one, Community Health Services provided us with the kind of historic breakdown of how they have been funded by regional organizations. And so at the end of the day, I'm trying to remember what the number was for, oh, here we go. Of the groups in the area that they thought could potentially help cover this gap, we had Pitkin County Public Health, which actually pulls out of the Healthy Community Fund mandated services, Eagle County Public Health, Garfield County Public Health, the Healthy Community Fund grant program, because they do apply for a separate grant, Town of Snowmass Village, and then City of Aspen. And we broke these down by percentage. So Public Health, Pitkin County Public Health was funding at 31.61%. Eagle County Public Health was funding 23.881 or 18%. Garfield 13.57. Healthy Community Fund 13. Town of Snowmass Village 9.61. City of Aspen 8.99. And so we just applied, that was the amount of funding they received from those organizations, and we applied that percentage across the 90,000. Which meant that, and since we're here for Pitkin, the total for Pitkin, the request was, or Pitkin's portion of that would be, if my phone would scroll, I think it was 46,503. So the group recommended, the recommendation essentially said that the group recommends community health services pursue funding in these amounts from each of these organizations. And so as we understand it, Logan and Community Health are going to go talk to Eagle County Public Health, Garfield County Public Health. But from the Pitkin side, we looked at both the mandated funding out of the public health as well as the Healthy Community Fund. And that portion of the recommendation for us would be 46,503, which could potentially come out of the Healthy Community Fund's surplus fund balance that we have right now, or potentially could get funded out of the general fund. And I don't know, do you all have anything else to add about the recommendation process, or what you
No.
all as organizations kind of
No, I think
were
you
looking
covered
at?
it.
Yeah.
Do we know if they have been rejected from any of these partners for filling
We do
this
not
gap?
at this time. And we had discussed that. What happens if we put out this recommendation and the organizations follow through and come back and say, well, we only got funded at, you guys are the only ones who committed, we're still short. We don't really have an answer for that. That's something we'd bring back to the BoCC at that point. It is experimental at this point,
Sure.
so we're still trying to figure out the best way to move forward, but these services are pretty essential to our community, and so we did feel that the recommendation was strong, and we're willing to try to figure out how to move forward through this. So.
Thanks, Sam. Greg, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Sam. I'm looking at the numbers here. I didn't see where the 46 came from. I'm looking at the 28.449 or 28,449 from HCF managed services, Pitkin County, and then the others. I guess the question is, the first question was, City of Aspen's coming in at 8.99%. Clearly the largest number of people who would use these services is within the City of Aspen. Why is that percentage lower? Is it because they're already part of a tax-paying base, or I'm trying to figure out how this works.
Yep, that's a great question. So the two numbers, Greg, to get to 45 for your first question is the Pitkin County Public Health. That was 28,449. And then also the fourth bullet point is the Healthy Community Fund, which is another 11,700. And so...
Thank you.
Yeah.
It slipped right by me.
No worries. And so with your question about City of Aspen, the way we determine this funding is based on historical funding. So we looked at these 6 organizations and just added up what they've been, or we took the percentage of what they've been historically granting. We didn't try to go and say, well, City of Aspen, you've got this many people, we're going to make up some number. Our approach to this was between these 6 organizations, this total was granted to Community Health Services, and this is the percent breakdown for each of those organizations of the total. That was kind of the methodology we used to come up with these numbers.
I'd love to just revisit that. Maybe there's a reason for that. I don't understand. If that's what they've historically done, so let's not go back to them and say, hey, the world has changed. Maybe you guys need to pony up more, or maybe we just need to curb our expectations about what we can actually accomplish. I could anticipate one or more of these people just saying they don't have any money to contribute. And what I think I heard you say is you'll just come back to the BoCC. So, I guess we should just be straight up front about where that's going. I'm concerned because if that's a strategy, it doesn't sound like. I'm just wondering, what sort of support do you need to make this successful, but also to make sure that we're turning over every rock we're going to need to turn over to make these things work. If we're making assumptions about, well, they only gave us 9% before, is that still a worthy assumption? And should we revisit that? And should I be campaigning? Should I be calling the mayor and the city councilors or something? Like, what do you want me to do to make this work?
It's a good question. I think we would probably seek guidance from you all on that. This is what we as a group.
I guess I would just respond. I think we have had conversations along these lines in the past about why public health funding gets divvied up this way. And, if my recollection serves, it's basically because public health is a county mandated service, not a municipal mandated service. And, they're partners with us, but not the actual providers of those things. And so this 9% sort of represents their partnership, but doesn't represent their, equal share in what a municipality's role is in public health and the way public health gets delivered in Colorado at the county level. I'm just offering that as my recollection when it's come up for these conversations in the past. Kara?
I do not know the specific details either, but I think to the conversation, it's something that we could investigate in the future. But I think to come out of the recommendations from this regional collaboratives group and to recognize how, as a community, we've been sharing this cost for community health services, and as they alluded to, this is the first one. We're trying it. As long as everyone's a little bit adaptable to say, hey, we're out here. The request to the county, quite frankly, is the highest between public health and human service and healthy community funds. So I think to have you all put your stake in the ground today helps probably everyone else. I don't want to speak for them, but to go out to the various governing boards and see how we can all share in this burden that is coming before us from these federal funding cuts.
Thanks, Kara. Greg?
Yeah, thank you, Kara, and Kelly, for your thoughts on this. I personally think that the ground has changed under our feet when it comes down to funding things like this. So to me, that's an opportunity to come back and try to see if we might be able to optimize the situation we have and go and circle back where previously we had a reason not to, but I'm not sure those reasons are valid any longer. To go back and just say, hey, these are the services that we've demonstrated that they're essential, they're necessary. The environment's changed. We're going to need more help. Do you want to do this or not? And I guess we have an ability. Certainly, the county has had an ability to do this in the past. I'm just not sure how far it'll go going forward. But I don't want to make the assumption that we're going in with the same set of assumptions, even though so much has changed with the federal funding environment, and we have so much more now coming toward us in terms of funding requests. So maybe there's yes, I certainly want to move forward with this, no question, but I also think we ought to circle back around and see if this makes sense in the big picture. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate your thoughts on this. And yes, we are in a shifting world and have to figure out how to get through it together. I appreciate your support. You know, these services are critical. I think, you know, we live in a country that has the worst maternal health for any high-income country in the world, and we would further be putting people at risk by removing their access to these services. So I'd like to see us support it and encourage our other partners in the Valley who will be requested for their proportions to fund and support it as well. Jeffrey?
No, thanks. I think, again, amazing idea in terms of off-cycle requests. We're used to budget supplementals, so it's nice to see at the human services side that we're thinking along the same lines. So appreciate, again, your due diligence in bringing this forward and sort of pre-vetting it before it gets to the board level, so thank you.
All right. You support them $46,000 for community health services?
I don't, but that's not saying I don't support them. I just don't support the math. So can you just double check your figures, because I don't agree with you.
It's
Sorry.
40,000.
40,149 should be the correct figure, please.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yes.
So not that I read the memos, but
Yeah,
please
we'll
make
check,
sure.
we'll
you
check the
don't.
math for sure. Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't going to bring it up, but now that you
No,
mention it,
100%.
I support you for 40,149, but not the aforementioned
When I was
number.
reading it to Greg, I was thinking the same thing.
No,
Yeah.
sorry, I did the math in my head, and I was like, oh, let me try this thing, the smartphone.
Yeah. And this might have
thank you.
shifted because I thought the number was initially higher, maybe that they were going to bring to you, but, okay. And will this come to us through budget supplemental?
It will.
Okay,
It will. And we can talk with Connie about, based on direction for board and community health services timing, how that might.
Okay.
If we need to do something sooner, we definitely can and come do it in a supplemental process.
All right. Thank you, Kara. Thanks, Sam.
All right.
Valerie.
Thanks,
Nice
everyone.
to see
Thank you. Thanks, Ariel. Thanks, Valerie.
All right, and I think we'll see you guys in a few weeks, I understand, too, so thanks.
Thanks for bringing the watershed together.
It's been a cool process.
All right. We're running a little ahead of time, but I think we have our next team here. Come on up.
Hey, Kelly, one last
Oh, sorry.
thought. Do you
Yes,
mind if
Greg.
As
Sure.
they're all leaving the room.
Oh, Sam, hang on. You got one last thought from
Sam, I guess what I want to do is
Commissioner Poshman.
assess the commitment all the partners have to this, and then let's negotiate the best outcome. You know, I want to make sure that we assess their commitment and then make sure they really understand the position we're all in. And I'm sure they do, but since we're all going to work together on this, sorry, didn't mean to bring you back so quickly.
No, it's all good. I think I'm sticking around anyway.
Oh, okay.
How would you like that to look? What could that look like as far as this group or?
We send Brian Pettit in as our key negotiator.
Maybe do you have a timeline?
We can talk
How
about
about
this.
this? Is there a
I don't know yet.
timeline for approaching these other funders?
That's a good question. We could request that community health reach out to them before we bring the supplemental forward.
I mean, what's the plan to contact Eagle County Public Health and Garfield County Public Health?
That's the direction they were given in the recommendation, and that's what was communicated to them. If we wanted to say the BoCC would like to get that back before we bring the supplemental forward, we can communicate that to them.
Okay, I think that's helpful. Is that helpful for you, Greg?
Yeah, I think that helps. Just checking to see if we're all on the same ground. I'm a little nervous about this. So good luck to you all, and I can't wait to hear back.
All right.
Well, and the group is going to be meeting not this Friday, but next Friday. We could put on the agenda for the group to revisit the funding recommendation, like the percentages based on your concerns, if you would like. I don't know, Kara, what do you think?
Yeah, I think my recommendation would be for community health services to go make those requests, and then once we see that back, maybe we at the staff level talk internally prior to that third quarter supplemental. Perfect. And see where everyone's landing for right now.
Thank you all.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. We are. Whoop. Okay, thought we lost y'all on Zoom there. We are going to move on to discuss the Twining Flats Road General Improvement District proposed ballot question. Hello. Hello,
Hi.
welcome.
Why don't we just introduce ourselves and then
Great.
we'll start.
Liz Woods, Finance Director.
Roman Iacono, Public Works.
And I'm Brian Pettit, I'm the Public Works Director. And this item may seem new to the board because it probably is, but it's not new to us because we've been working on it for, at least Romany's been working on it for over a year. And by means of introduction, I want to give a little history. While I wasn't here in the 1980s, I do know that the Board of County Commissioners approved subdivisions at that time designating the roads within the subdivision as public roads. But they never accepted. The next step is to accept those roads for maintenance under the county coffers. That step was never taken. So there were these subdivisions in the hinterlands of the county, mainly up the Crystal River, that didn't have any funding sources for these public roads. So some of those communities chose to fund them through their homeowners associations, and two chose to go through the route of forming a general improvement district or a general road improvement district. And that was Redstone Ranch Acres and Twining Flats community. So through this process, they decide to tax themselves and form their own organization to pay for road improvements, road maintenance, that type of thing, including winter snow removal. So we watch those budgets because they are part of the county budgeting process, and you ultimately are responsible for the success of those two general improvement districts as their board. Having said that, Redstone Ranch Acres and Twining Flats have been slowly working into a structural deficit over the years because their expenses have gone up and their revenues have not followed the need for increase, that increase. About 3 or 4 years ago, might have been 4, Redstone Ranch Acres came to the board and had some bridge grants that were issued just to get them by. And then 2 years ago, they passed a successful ballot measure within Redstone Ranch Acres that provides them enough funding for the foreseeable future to do improvements and also take care of their maintenance needs. So we saw this was occurring in the Twining Flats area. About 17 residents live in Twining Flats. It's a little less than a mile of road, so much smaller than Redstone Ranch Acres. But Romany, because we had success with Redstone Ranch Acres, followed basically the same guidelines that we followed with Redstone Ranch, is to bring the community together, survey them on what they would be willing to pay for the increase, what they think the road needs for improvements, and then bring forth a ballot measure that they would vote on for that increased mill levy. So that's what Romany's been working on for the last year, and maybe she can just walk through some of the steps she took in order to come to the conclusion that this proposed ballot question includes.
Okay, well, first we met with residents, and then we had a second meeting where Ann and Liz joined, explained the whole process of mill levies to residents that weren't very familiar with them. After, at that same meeting, we set up a citizen board, a volunteer citizen board. 7 people volunteered for that. They could get together, figure out, what would work best. I sent out an anonymous survey, giving everybody the option of keep the mill levy the same, raise it 1.5% up to 4%. The majority of people wanted that 3 mil, 3 mil increase on that. So 70% of the people that responded to the survey, that's what they were looking at. So if we do it that way, we're going to look at roughly $10,000 surplus each year, which when I did some different quotes, so for crack sealing, that would be $12,000. Then if you do chip sealing, that was, I think, $75,000. So it takes a bit of time for them, but at least they'd have that little cushion where they could start building that surplus. Right now, they are, I think it's about $4,000 per year in deficit. So they're doing very basic maintenance, snow maintenance. They're not doing much summer maintenance at all. They do want to do crack sealing. If they wanted to do any sort of widening of the roads or fire mitigation, that's not covered at this point.
So the purpose for the board is really, this is introducing the subject for the next regular meeting, where you would see the ballot question and approve it for the November ballot for the GID to vote on specifically. It doesn't go to the rest of the residents, it just goes to those 17 residences within Twining Flats.
Okay. Questions?
I have a question.
This is the nuts and bolts of local government.
Question, just what happens if it gets voted down? Say it doesn't happen. Are they just left looking out for their own piece of it? Some people doing more, some doing less. How does that work?
Yeah, so there would not be a formal way of bringing the needed tax revenue in to pay for their expenses. So they could either pass the hat, ask for a bridge loan, but ultimately, I think they've got to pass a mill levy increase or find another way of doing business. It's one or the other. And I think that through this process, that has been made abundantly clear to them. So
Right, thank you.
We're crossing our fingers for a successful vote. That's a good question.
This is interesting to me because in Brush Creek Village, we have orphaned areas that are kind of like that, including the street that I'm on. So somebody's going to be calling Romany to say, hey, what did you guys do? And should we be doing that? I think in sometime in the future, I could imagine it happening a few other places. And I know it does happen. It's interesting to hear the process. I should have looked into it sooner. Thanks.
Liz, anything to offer?
I was just here in case you had any financial questions.
I guess I do. So they rack up some debt, they don't pass the mill levy. What happens? They don't pay their bills, someone tries to put a lien. Do you put a lien on the district? Like, how does that work?
So I think what our next step would be is that we'd have to start providing less services, basically. So in order to make sure that they are not running a deficit. So that would look at like potentially, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but maybe they would only get plowed 5 times a year instead of 10 or 15 or however many snowstorms we have. So that is kind of like what the next step would look like, is that we would just have to basically provide less services in order to make sure that they are not racking up a debt, as you're
So
saying.
is the county contracting with them for services per year? Like, are they contracting with us to do the snow removal or chip seal or all that?
So they contract for their own contractors to provide the services. So that's a little bit of the challenge. We don't have control over who they contract with.
But do we pay those bills? Like, do they invoice through us?
We
through
do.
the county? Okay,
We do.
I see. Okay.
So
So we'd put out a notice to contractors, hey man, they don't have money, so don't enter into a contract for 20, plows or whatever.
I hope we don't have to go down
No,
that
I know.
road.
I'm
but
just thinking
yeah,
worst
but
case scenario.
it's
It sounds like there's significant support in the community to send this forward. Okay, do they have, so they have 7 people on their leadership group?
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's keep them informed of when this comes before us, and they are welcome to come and
I set up a
present.
mailing list with all Twining Flats residents, so I informed them of the dates for the work session and the 2 readings.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and reach out to them again
Okay.
come the next reading.
All right, are we prepared to say, yep, bring this forward to us?
Nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yep,
Okay.
I am. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right,
Great.
thanks, Romany.
you.
I appreciate the community organizing element of this, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are screaming through our agenda today. You notice that happens when there's just you and me, gentlemen? Okay. Why don't we skip ahead? We'll do future agendas and board open discussion. And Kara, maybe shoot off a text to Charlotte and see if Ramona's available a little bit earlier. Otherwise, we'll just go on break till she gets here. Okay. Future agendas. Let's go ahead and pull that up. Next Tuesday, we have a board retreat. Looking forward to spending time with you all. And I believe there will be a significant amount of reading in advance of that. So the goal is for the packet to be published tomorrow to give everybody a chance to have extra time to read the white papers related to Vision 2050.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see, Wednesday the 23rd, there's a ribbon cutting in the morning for the battery energy storage system. And then we will have a regular meeting on the 23rd. Is anyone absent that day? Greg, are you possibly going to be out of town?
At this point, I do not know. I'm going to guess that I will be here.
Okay.
Likely that I'll be here.
Okay. Let's see. Not a lot on the 23rd. Are we anticipating anything else getting added to this, Kara?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think what we have here is what we will have here. I will share Ashley is working with the coalition on mobile home park purchasing, so we're trying to figure out if there might be something added last minute to the 23rd or if it will be in August. So we will keep you all updated.
Okie doke.
And
When are we hearing Twining Flats then?
probably need to be adding it.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have any of our ballot measure stuff that I see yet in August, so we will need to have those things added. Any other items for consideration for future agendas? At this time? No? Okay. Kara, do you have any?
I do not have any, but I will note, especially since Ryan just walked in, there potential. I think we're still trying to figure out August 5th as far as if there's airport updates on August 5th. So we're still working at the staff level to see what might be on that agenda.
Okay, because we do have a number of airport things we're expecting to
Yeah.
see relative to task forces and those kind of things. Okay. All right, great. Question, yeah, go ahead. Do you want to come on up? Yeah, please, always. Red light on.
Oh, it's so dim. Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you.
There were two that I heard this morning. I wasn't sure if they were on future agendas just yet, but one was a lease for Subway, that there was going to be a transfer of that lease to a new owner. So they wanted to get that on. And then the second one was a lease on Crown Mountain between the town or between the county and Verizon for expanded cellular coverage in Willits in the Mid Valley, which would be welcome. So I think that one is ready to go too. I think that's been through legal and through telecom. So
Okay, good to know. And we have canceled our meeting tomorrow, just a heads up.
Oh, is that right?
Because Jeffrey and I are going to be doing water tours of the Crystal. And so if there are any items, particularly for next Wednesday, that come up, just feel free to
Okay.
communicate with us by email or phone.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
great, thanks.
Yep. Is that it?
That's all I got for future agendas.
Okay. Open discussion. Do you have any? Please go ahead.
I've got a couple. I
Yeah,
don't
go
know
ahead.
if board wants to go first.
Nope, go ahead, please.
So the first one, we've got a couple updates from membership organizations for sponsorships, and we wanted to bring them to this board. So the first one is Mountain Towns 2030, which we have been a sponsor before, has submitted a request for us to be an anchor community, which it's about $5,000, and I apologize, I need to pull up what the number was in the past of what our sponsorship has been. We have supported Mountain Towns for the past 3 years, I believe. Perfect, everyone's walking in at the right time. And so I think the request is Pitkin County supportive of being an anchor sponsor of Mountain Towns 2030. I do believe we would have some availability in the funding. And I think staff is also looking at probably putting this into the budget process, given that we have been supportive in the past. So you all could debate it also, we could be talking about it in November or so and move forward in the future.
Okay, I think it would be helpful to know what we gave in the past, and I believe they gave us some registrations for their conference.
Correct.
Greg, you have a question? Comment?
No, just want to, I was going to ask, I can't remember the amount of the support we offered, but I certainly am supportive of it. I think they're certainly a useful, worthwhile partner to have.
I'm trying to find out. Levi, do you know?
Come
on
on
up,
up, please.
Levi.
Do I know what?
Sorry. What our sponsorship has been in the past for Mountain Towns 2030.
I don't think we offered an anchor sponsor last year.
Right.
But in years past, when we have, I think we get 3 or 4 membership entries as part of that. And I think they're $400 or $500 each, from what I remember. So we get a bunch of good publicity and kind of join a lot of our like-minded communities, and then we also get a handful of free registrations to the conference.
All right, how about we get a little bit more detail before we
Yeah, we can get more info.
exactly identify what level of sponsorship we care to give and what fund it's going to get them out of.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And so we can get more information and bring that back. The second request is for the CC4CA annual meeting sponsorship. So this is actually, in the past, the annual meeting was in June. We had 3 folks go. Jeffrey went along with Levi and Michael, went to the CC4CA annual meeting. CC4CA has not charged for those meetings, and Vail has really carried the burden of that. And I think in the future they're starting to look at maybe there's a conference registration fee or something, but there was not one this year. So they are asking for members to consider a voluntary post-member annual meeting membership. And so of anywhere from premium of $1,500, gold at $1,000, or silver $500, or to $250 for that past meeting. The annual dues for this year was $10,500, so it really would just be up to the board of what level you all would like to consider. Again, if we thought about this similar to one-day conferences, you put 3 folks went, it's probably around that $750 level, depending on all the different aspects of it. Oh,
Sure. And I think we have contributed in the past.
I don't have a
but
Zoom
sorry.
to raise my hand.
Go ahead, Levi.
A couple other things that they suggested were some voluntary conference registration fees, and they recommend $250 per person after the first attendee. So the first attendee would be free, and then $250 per person after that. And then there was also the pre-meeting conference, the storytelling conference that all 3 of us attended, and they recommend a range of $75 to $125 for that pre-conference meeting. And so it's kind of strange in that none of those numbers are really fixed. They're all kind of like ranges or suggestions. So my napkin math, the options are kind of like 0 up to $23.75 if we pick the highest amount from each of those selections. So just to piggyback on top of the sponsoring of the annual conference, there was the suggested registration fee and then the pre-meeting registration fee also, but they're all voluntary.
Okay. And again, what fund would this come out of? Would this be like the same as our dues type fund?
Yeah. I think there's two. It's either your dues or, for conferences such as Cast and Mountain Towns, it would come out of there.
Okay, so let me think. So if I heard you correctly,
We're testing everyone's math.
$250 per person after the first, so that's $500 for two that we sent, plus an extra $100 for each of the three of you for the storytelling conference is $800, plus $1,500 for the sponsorship request. Those would be the max. So was that $2,300 on top of the $10,000 we pay in dues, or something between $0 and $2,300. Okay. What is the board interest in that? I mean, I'm happy to contribute something. We generally pay to register to go to these events. So, any thoughts, Jeffrey?
Having attended CC4CA for 3 days, I'd feel comfortable sponsoring them at $2,500 or whatever makes sense. I think we had the Governor's Energy Office there, the Attorney General kindly had his time and staffers there, Michael to do the storytelling. So there was a cast of sort of outside characters, if you will, to assist in the storytelling. And so I think the value to staff and to the board was significant. I can't speak to Mountain Town or to MT 2030, but seriously, the 3 days with the CC4CA, both staff as well as who they brought in, I thought was pretty invaluable to framing a conversation around climate as we look at 25, 26 bills. And I think it's while Vail gets paid back through clearly lodging and a few tequila shots, I think it would be okay for Pitkin to recognize the value of CC4CA to the county staff and board.
Okay. Greg?
I support Jeffrey with that. I think that makes sense.
Okay. I think that's generous, but I'll go with what you guys suggest.
And just for reference, like the CCI registration fee can be $500 each, and we send 3 or 4 people. I think it's pretty on par with some of the other conferences we staff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just shooting off a little logistical text. Okay. What else for open discussion?
A fun one is we are looking at planning the employee picnic, which we do at Public Works. Right now, it looks like looking at calendars and what works for Public Works is September 24th from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. In general, we're hoping that works for the BoCC. And we can shoot out that since we are missing a couple folks, but wanted to double check that there wasn't anything big on your all's schedules that we might be missing.
Don't we have a meeting that day? A regular session Wednesday, the 24th?
So the 20th.
Second and fourth?
Yeah, we do.
So it's Thursday?
20.
Okay. So we'll double check on that one.
Okay.
You said September 24th?
I did.
Yeah, that's a Wednesday, so got it.
Well, we would.
These are getting later in the year. We used to do them in July.
I know.
When is our Eagle County joint meeting equidistant from us? Have you talked about that, Kara?
We have not talked about that. Can you elaborate, Greg?
Oh, well, Eagle County and Pitkin were going to meet at Three Meadows and do a picnic of some sort there for a joint meeting of commissioners, probably with AVLT people participating at some point. Does that not ring any bells?
I got Charlotte in the room in my ear, which is helpful. September 17th is the date that is being looked at for Three
Okay,
Meadows.
just want to make sure we don't conflict with that. Great.
And we will double check. It looks like there's not a meeting.
Not on Wednesday, that week it's on Thursday.
Oh, because do we have a holiday?
I think so.
a Jewish holiday.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, it'd be great if we could update the board calendars. That would be
Yes.
super helpful. Thank you. Okay, well, that's helpful to clarify. Anything else?
The other
open
one, and
discussion?
I'm not sure if Jeffrey will bring it up, is related to a request to waive permit fees.
From Megan Ruby?
Yes.
The Ruby Rescue
Yes.
Run?
Uh,
So I think we all received this request. I guess my initial reaction is when do we charge these permit fees? Like how many events are ComDev, is ComDev charging permit fees for, and why? Would be helpful before answering. It would be helpful for me before answering this request, I guess.
I may offer if Ramona's here. I know we had flagged for Suzanne or Samantha to come down.
Okay.
And since we're running ahead, I can try and ping them
Okay,
to
yeah,
come
we
down.
we can come back to open discussion to answer that. Thanks. Do board members have any open discussion?
Kelly, if Charlotte's still there, I just wanted to say that I think regarding the 17th of September joint meeting, I'm assuming someone's reached out to Suzanne Stevens at AVLT about coordinating that, since they're the manager of the property. And so I just want to make sure they're in the loop. If not, I'll make introductions as needed.
Okay. I will add this to our future agenda list to track. Sound good, Greg?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Any other open discussion? Okay. I am not seeing any. We have one more thing to do, which is interview Ramona Bruland. Is she here? We are running very early.
Scheduled at 3:15.
Yeah.
I asked her to be here at 3.
Okay. Okay, well, why don't we take a break, and then we'll see if ComDev can come down and talk with us about this permit fee issue before we do Ramona's interview. Thank you, everyone. At the very least, she should 3:15. I said, I'm not sure, we're waiting to hear if staff can come down. He can't hear you. Next him. right, welcome back, everyone, to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, July 15th. And we're taking a break, and now we're back, and we will resume our agenda. I see we have our interviewee here for the Citizen Grant Review Committee. So I will go ahead and invite Charlotte Anderson and Ramona Brulin to come on up. And Charlotte will give us a bit of an overview of where we're at with the interviews, and then I will give a bit of an overview about our interview today. And nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the Citizen Grant Review Board that we're interviewing for. We've had 4 applicants. There are 4 positions, 3 regulars, and one alternate. And you've completed all the other interviews, so we'll let you ask questions of Ramona and let her give her reasons why she wants to serve.
So I'm lucky last. Okay.
Well, thanks, Ramona. So we'll invite you to tell us about yourself and why you're interested in this committee, and then we'll ask a few questions of you. And then normally at a future date, we will discuss all of the citizen boards that we're appointing for, make our decisions, and tell Charlotte, and she will stay in contact with you.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
A bit about myself. Well, I've been in Aspen since 2009. I used to work for the local TV station, Plum TV. Had a great career in broadcast journalism, and I guess, I got married in 2015. I've got 2 young kids in the school system now. But I first started getting involved in philanthropy in 2015 when the Community Foundation reached out, and they were starting their Cradle to Career initiative, and they formed a giving circle. So my husband and I were founding members, and we started learning about nonprofits in the region that were helping children and families. And for me, that was just like a paradigm shift. It's like, wow, this is our community, this is our workforce corridor, this is the people who help our little bubble up here in Aspen run. Fast forward to 2019, they asked me to be chair of the Giving Network. And then COVID hit, and we saw so much change in the needs here in the region. Around 2020, I jumped on, maybe it was 21, I jumped on the grants committee for City of Aspen, and I spent 3 years looking at the applicants for arts and culture and scoring and allocating funds, and that was really fun. And then after 3 years of that, I switched to Health and Human Services because while I love arts and culture, Health and Human Services is really where my heart is. And so I've done that for 4 years now with City of Aspen, and then I just saw this advertised that you guys were looking for someone for your committee, and I'm like, oh, I know all about that. I could be helpful. I would really like to come and, just see what you guys do, see who you grant to, see what, through your lens, who's applying for your grants. And I feel like I've got a really strong foundation on health and human service organizations. With the Giving Network, I'm still chair. And we've quadrupled in size. We're now 138 members deep. And 2 years ago, we switched to exclusively supporting health and human services here in the Valley. So we just finished our grant cycle last week. We gave out $675,000 to, we split into 3 cohorts because we're getting so big. So we were focusing on mental health, children and families, and basic needs, which was food insecurity, housing, healthcare, those kind of things. So just over the years, over the last, 8 years, I've really just dove into the health and human services here in this region, and I'm really passionate about it. And I know it's not an easy thing to get your head around. Like, everyone just wants to give every organization 10 out of 10 because they're all doing such great work. But, when you have a bit of an idea of the landscape and, just the needs and the gaps, I find that's really helpful in understanding the asks and, maybe what's might be more important or helpful to this community than other asks. It's just been a really good journey, and I would really like to continue it, and I would really like to be a part of what you guys do and, learn the ins and outs of how you guys do it and be helpful if possible.
Great, thank you, Ramona.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for applying. Nice to see you. Let's go ahead and open up the opportunity for questions from board members. Who would like to go first? Greg, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Ramona. Sorry I can't be there in person. Thank you for coming in, and it's great to hear your history and with philanthropy in the Valley. Two questions really are time commitment. Are you going to be able to make the time commitment given all the other things you do and family and travel and everything else? I just know how busy it is. So time commitment's a thing. And then also conflicts. Are there conflicts of interest that we need to work through with the other boards or the other interests you might have? Just so we ask everyone this, if they're on multiple boards. Those are the two things that popped up for me. But it's gratifying to have you come in, and I'm eager to hear this, and hopefully we can make this work. We've got 4 seats open and we've got 4 applicants, so I certainly like where this is going, but I want to make sure I understand. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Greg. Yeah. Well, I'm very familiar with grant cycles and how they work, and I just assume it's reading all the applicants and scoring them, and whatever parameters and guidelines you guys have is what I would adhere to. City of Aspen has their matrix, and you read the applicant, you score it, and then you put it out of mind. They don't want any biases involved. It's very particular and easy to follow. And then even with the Giving Network, we bring them information, we educate the members, and then the members vote. So while I have my opinions and things, it's really what the vote outcome is to how we allocate our funds. So it's really about the educational aspect and the learning aspect that we bring the donors here in the Valley and connecting them to nonprofits. Yes, I have my opinions, but I'm sure you guys are pretty organized and have your matrix and your parameters and everything laid out, and I can easily follow those. So time commitment, as to your first question, I'm really just a stay-at-home mom right now with a lot of free time. Grant cycles are cyclical, so I'm busier at sometimes and busier at sometimes and less busy at others. When does your grant cycle finish and end? Do you start and finish?
Lisa, do you want to come up and answer those questions? I don't want to get it wrong.
We will have applications to you by second week of August usually, and then you have about a month, 6 weeks to read them, and then we meet for 3 nights, end of September, beginning of October.
Okay.
And that will be determined with everyone who's on the Citizen Grant Review Committee. We make sure that everyone's in town, and then we choose 3 nights and sit and discuss it for about 3 or 4 hours, and we'll figure out what time of the day is best for everyone. So
that's great. September, when the kids get back to school, I've got that. I got that 9 to 3 window, which is helpful.
Right?
So thank you. Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Greg, any other questions right now?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Jeffrey?
Ramona, I guess the question is, you've just been through a grant cycle.
Yep. Red light on.
The red light is
Hello.
invisible. It really doesn't make a difference if it's on or off. Only you know. Sorry for the sidebar. Ramona, the question is really, given you just went through a grant cycle, what is the community unmet need? What are we not servicing well, given the changes at the state and federal level? So you can unpack that however you'd like.
Yeah. The discussion about what's happening federally is huge. A lot of nonprofits don't quite know how that's going to impact them yet. So I feel like we're going to feel the brunt of that in next year's grant cycle. You guys will start seeing it, I think, in your grant cycle this year. And it's terrifying, really. Food insecurity is growing already with what's happening with Lift Up. Healthcare, healthcare services in this valley. There's a huge need there. I know it's heart-wrenching, and basic needs was the most fun this year because it was new to us, and children and families has been our meat and potatoes, and we've kind of followed that. And there was a lot of youth services and after-school programs, and then early childhood. With the CC Coalition and what they're trying to do with funding early childhood, there's a huge need there. So we'll hope to see some progress on that in the next year or so. We funded helped fund a
daycare center down in Parachute because they have got zero facilities for 6 weeks to, pre-K4. So, they're all just they're just looking after kids and friends and families and neighborhood houses, which is, works. They do what they can do. But the further down valley you get, the greater the need, especially from Glenwood Springs to Parachute. It's dire there with rents doubling. So the organizations, the family resource centers, the River Center, that are just able to help with utilities or, that one car payment to keep families stable. Because rents have doubled in the last 5 years at least, and it's putting a lot of strain on family, which is then causing substance abuse. It's a whole network, and it's only going to get worse.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good.
Okay. Ramona, thank you for being so astute about the problems that we're wrestling with right now and your engagement with them. I have asked all the other candidates, so I'll ask as well. What is your thought process when you have to either say no to an applicant or reduce their award? How do you sort of wrestle with those decisions?
You guys are a little different because you kind of give out a lot of money every year and you do a lot of the same organizations every year, right? So you're hoping to sustain. So, reducing, I guess you probably if you cut back or cut funding from organizations that you support for many years, you probably get some angry people, huh? That must be kind of hard to deal with. I mean, the giving network's a little different, and we try and give, one-off larger impact grants, and then we can say no the next year, and we're not, severing a lifeline or their general operating funds or anything like that. So it's a little easier, I think. I think looking at City of Aspen and how they say similar to you, kind of give a little bit to everyone year in, year out. You guys are a lifeline, and if it's incremental amounts, or if there's just an overall strategy, like how can we work together to make sure everyone has what they need without just ripping the carpet out from under their feet,
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's hard, but I'm very good at cutting out fluff or overlap or organizations that just have, in Health and Human Services there's a lot less of them, but organizations that can pay themselves a salary to have a job because that's what they like to do, but how effective and efficient are they really? So, I like to get to the bottom of that, and you've got to look at the positive. It's like, look at all the organizations you are helping, and you guys have a lot of money to give out, so that's really needed and helpful here in the region. So, that's just, how does that not make you happy, right?
Well, we're grateful to the taxpayers who've reauthorized it over years, and we'll be asking them again next year to keep it going. So yeah. Okay. Well, great. I appreciate the answer. Are there any further questions for Ramona? Okay. Any last thoughts you want us to consider?
No, I'm grateful you guys do what you do, and glad I had the opportunity to chat with you today.
Yeah,
So,
great.
Thank you.
Well, I think our big decision will probably be which regulars and which alternate we appoint out of the group, and again, we'll talk about that. We are missing 2 commissioners today.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, they go back and watch the video of the interviews, and then we chat about who we want to appoint to all the boards. That comes to us in a formal resolution, but Charlotte will communicate with you as we make that decision.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Which will happen forthwith because we know that the grant cycle is about to start. So.
It's on top of us. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Nice to see you. Have a good
Thanks,
afternoon.
Ramona.
Okay, so we jumped around a little in our agenda. We're going to go back to a little bit of board open discussion. I see more people have joined us in the room, so I'm guessing there's more open discussion. But Suzanne, can I invite you up, because we were discussing a request we all received by email to waive permit fees for an event, and I know it would help me to sort of understand how many events are paying permit fees every year, and what is any precedent we might start by agreeing to these.
I do not have any numbers in front of me to tell you how many, but basically every event that submits a special event permit pays a fee to us. And that's, our fees are based on the standard permit fee for a not complicated event is $650, which is based on 2 hours of staff time based on our billing of $325 an hour, which covers all of the administrative services related to that one person who actually creates a permit. Yeah, you know, all of those things. You've heard all those things during budgeting season.
Yes,
But so again, in terms of the request to waive the fee, our understanding has always been the board has charged us with covering our costs. So we accept fees in order to cover the cost of all of our staffing and all of the systems that we use. Right, every special event does have a permit fee. So in the past, it seems like there haven't been many requests. In the recent years, there were times when there were multiple requests a year, and the board, rather than hearing them one at a time, finally said they should pay fees, come in, ask for a refund, but then once a year you all would sort of consider, you know, which of these do we want to refund? Do we have money in our discretionary fund? And then you end up sort of doing the accounting to pay them back or whatever. Anyway, that's, probably back when we had more requests generally. People, the board didn't want to have them one-off. It's like, we need to understand the whole picture and see what we've got. So again, right now, there's just this one request. Again, I don't remember the last time somebody may have come before you, to ask to have those fees covered.
Yeah. And my assumption is we have a number of nonprofits that are paying fees for
Sure,
these
there are plenty of
events
other
every year.
again, the Buddy Bash gets a special event permit. A lot of the, different race events that may, benefit organizations, are paying that fee. We try and work with folks, when it's a recurring event, like a 3-year event, we're generally getting the fee once for them, and then the second and third years are, more minimal in terms of our review. So, we try and help out there, but this one's obviously kind of bringing back an event that used to happen annually and hasn't for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of the landscape, I guess, of the special event permits and fees.
Okay. Thanks. This is helpful. Kara?
Yeah, I will add in, so in addition, the request is also for waiving the buttermilk parking fees. While we haven't had requests for fee waivers of special events, I do understand from the staff level there have been multiple requests for waiving the buttermilk parking fees that have just come through staff, and so we have not granted any of those waivers yet. So this is not only an annual event that's coming back, but now we've got the buttermilk parking element on it that is new this year.
Okay. Have they applied to you yet? Do we even know what the impact
Yeah, they
is?
submitted a special event permit actually back in February, which I'll give them huge credit for. That most people don't submit things way in advance, which is great. Usually we're getting them late in the game. So no, they've got a permit submitted. Presumably, yes, it will, a permit will be issued, or an application's been submitted, a permit would be issued. It's just, working its way through the referral system and making sure we get everything we need for the permit. But so then this issue came up.
Okay. All right. What are other questions from board members, or what you're thinking about this? Greg?
Yeah, hi, thank you for this. It's good to hear that they'd applied so early. It's kind of funny that they didn't come back to us until now. Maybe they didn't know what the fees were. I was also I see it's from an individual, Megan, but I don't know what her affiliation is with the veterinary clinic or with the animal shelter. Is she making this application on behalf of them, or is this something else where they are just the beneficiary that she's come up with? I don't understand. It just seems a little bit, maybe there's more to it. We just hadn't heard it until now. So
I believe she's on their board for the Aspen Animal Shelter, and I guess more to those specifics. I guess I don't know. Presumably, came up with it, sort of bringing it back. It used to be the Sundog uphill for many years, and I think just bringing it back as a fundraiser for the animal shelter.
Right. I'd certainly love to try to help support the animal shelter. The $650 permit fee doesn't sound like much at all. I don't know how many people she expects, but so if it's a recurring thing with the parking lot fee, that's probably something we can't do much about. I don't know. I don't know how to help her. I'd like to, though.
Okay, is it fair to say you have some willingness that we would pay the fee from our discretionary fund?
I'd be certainly willing to look at it, and it appears that if there aren't any other requests like this, but by saying that, we're probably inviting other requests that'll tee up. So, maybe she pays it, and I like the idea that at the end of the year, we see who we can reimburse with how much. If there's multiple requests, perhaps that's the better way to do it.
Okay. Thanks,
I like
Greg.
that.
Jeffrey?
I think consistent policy, board direction would be to cover costs, so I'd still like to maintain that policy. And there's always the parking opportunity at this thing called the Park and Ride that we may or may not own. So to me, there's free parking in the neighborhood already, and rather than try to get some sort of entanglement with SP Plus in trying to figure out how to waive fees or provide placards, whatever it is, it seems to me the only opportunity should be once a year at the end of the year, given budget constraints.
Okay. Can I mirror back what I think I heard?
Sure.
Okay. No coverage for parking, but we would entertain a review at the end of this year when we generally review what's left in our discretionary fund about requests for possible permit fee reimbursement.
And the logic is really to not invite 10 more folks to take up staff time, and then we end up with 10 unfunded projects. So again, the board direction was cover costs, which is where the hourly is coming in. This is not a cost plus. It's really just covering our bases.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we can flag this for a December 15th board discussion.
Make note of that right now.
Okay.
Future agenda.
Yeah.
And can I forward this to you for a staff reply, the email?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Otherwise, I'm happy to do it as chair, but
I'm happy to.
it might be, okay,
Yep.
thank you. All right, does that work? Okay, thank you, everyone. Did you have any other open discussion for us while you're down here?
Scheduling item, I don't know
Yes.
if that's appropriate now.
Sure.
Okay. You all are familiar with the Cloud 10 Aspen LLC property, which is off of Aspen Mountain, off of the Ruthie side. They were offering conservation easements to the county above the music school, off the ridge. They've submitted their land use application, which we will be bringing forward to the BoCC. Probably wouldn't be on your agenda till November-ish, maybe. But the question is that a property you're interested in going on a site visit to? Because if so, we just need direction from the attorney's office related to noticing for site visits. We need to be very thoughtful about how we make sure the noticing is happening. So, but given that the application will come to you at the point when it may be less accessible to get there for a site visit, we wanted to just see what the interest level is, and if so, then we'll work out how we could try and actually schedule that and make it happen and notice it properly.
And just for clarification, then Greg, I'll go to you. Was this the site where we gave access across? a
Right, there was
portion
an
of-
exchange of access for conservation easements, and I will say I'm probably the least informed
I just
about
wanna,
it.
in my own mind.
But yes,
think,
that,
okay.
yes.
Okay, Greg?
Yeah, thank you. I think a site visit for the board and staff would be a really good idea. I'm not sure how much we'll actually be able to see from the ground, other than maybe sight lines from the ski hills, or to get an idea where it is so we could see from the valley, places in the valley. But I think it might be even more helpful to have an aerial view, like a drone shot or something, to just give a sense of it, because this is pretty rough terrain up there. And if there was some great documentation of it, a virtual site visit might actually make some sense. But I also think it'd be a great idea for us to trudge up there and check it out. Thanks.
Maybe in the fall when everything's golden and beautiful.
Yes.
Okay. I would welcome a site visit.
Intrepid. Jeffrey always welcomes
Intrepid site visits are my middle name.
Yes.
Okay, and then the drone piece.
Okay.
Also. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll work on details.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all.
All right. Is there any other open discussion that's come up? I saw the attorneys come and go.
I think they were working with Charlotte on some board questions around bylaws of citizen review. So I think she'll come back with that information.
Okay.
That was the only other item.
Thank you.
Hey, Kelly.
Yes, Greg.
I don't know the situation yet, but I may have to leave town to go to a memorial service or to support family for a relative passed away, and an older relative passed away last night. And so I think I'm going to be here, but I may be called upon to support my wife. It's her side of the family. Okay. So just want to give you the warning, but I'm planning on being here next week.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. And, we are in this building, so we can probably accommodate remote visit if that's one.
Right. That always works great
for you.
Thanks.
All right. Any other open discussion, future agendas? All right. We're going to wrap her up early today, folks. Thanks, everybody, for your time, and we will see you. I will see the board next Tuesday for our retreat and public on the 23rd for our regular session. Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.